Moving on to just understanding the scope of that change that businesses are now being asked to address, and what Copenhagen really means for what social responsibility will be defined as in the next 10 years. This is a challenging question. Your businesses all, I'm guessing, have a business model which is based on selling more and more stuff, whatever the stuff might be. You make more profit if more of it gets sold. Now, the world is in a state where actually more and more and more and more stuff is going to be problematic, particularly as we move to 7 billion and then up to 8 billion. So then you start looking for different business models. And does anyone know what company creates an important feature that's in this picture? It's a bit of an obscure question, isn't it? I'm seeing if there's any real aficionados here who know this. The carpets in this picture are made by a company called Interface. How many of you heard of Interface?
Yeah.
Well, most of the BITC people put their hands up. That's why you're members, okay? Because they know their stuff. Interface Carpets decided some years ago that they were going to go fully sustainable. They were going to aim for zero impact on the environment. They're a long way there, they're not there yet. But the interesting thing for me about them is not all the recycled materials they use and all the various gubbins like that. It's that they try to move from a business model where they profit by shifting more carpet. Because the old model, this is a terrible venue to highlight this, because there aren't any carpets here. But if this was being provided with their professional floor covering, in the past what they did was they sold you a carpet. Great big solid bit of carpet that would fit the room. And then if there's a water cooler over here and that bit gets worn out because that's where everyone stands and gossips about what's going on in the company, then they say, oh yes, of course, well, to be professional you need a new carpet and you can buy one of us and that's great, we make lots of profit and you have a professional floor covering. And they changed the model. They said, no, what we do is we don't sell you a carpet anymore, we provide you with professional floor covering service. So we provide you with a professional floor covering on an ongoing basis. And that means that then when the bit around the water cooler gets worn out, they come in, they cut around it, they professionally put in a new bit, you don't see the joint, it looks very, very professional, but they make their profit now because they're shifting the least amount of stuff through. Because you pay them a flat charge for professional floor covering. So the most efficiently they can do that, the more profit they make. And that shifts the business model on its head. People are asking questions, well, how do you do that for the kind of business we are? And sometimes it's very hard to see how you do that. And sometimes there are just obstacles that have to be overcome. My energy company insists on selling me gigawatts. No idea what to do with a gigawatt. What I want is heating and lighting and my computers to work and all that kind of thing. And if you could flip the business model round, they sold me those services, and suddenly they have the incentive to do it as energy efficiently as possible. But there are barriers to that, and we haven't got time to go into those. Another interesting change that's starting to happen is that companies who look at the carbon footprints of their products have started to see that often it doesn't come in the manufacture, or the sourcing, or the end disposal. All those have impacts, but the big spike is in usage by the customer. So Procter & Gamble did this on their Ariel brand, where they did the map and the huge spike was in the use. And they identified it was largely because customers were washing their clothes at high temperatures. And they did their market research and found that customers were washing their clothes at high temperatures because nobody thought that the clothes would be properly cleaned at low temperatures. Well, they knew that the formula that they developed cleaned the clothes very well, and they did this Turn 30 campaign. Before they ran this campaign, 2% of people in the country washed their clothes at 30 degrees. This is the UK. After they ran that campaign, 17% of people in the UK were washing their clothes at 30. And the majority of the switchers identified the Ariel campaign as being the reason they switched. Very, very good for the brand. But the shift that was happening here was you started to see companies, through their marketing, seeking to influence customer behaviour. Seeking to get customers to consume differently and offering their products as a route to doing it, for sure. So it's smart marketing as well. And of course this was a joy because once you turn the dial down and you just leave it there. So it's very, very sustainable change in behaviour.